All right, everyone, welcome back to part 2. So in this part of the question, we'll pick up where Nivea says, also, how do you stop yourself from being that person with other people in your life who are not interested? What approach have you used with your husband to have him sustain so much change? How does he feel about your ideology? I heard you mention how you try to help him stay away from peanut butter. What's that like? Is it playful, strict, an argument, naughty, etc.? All right. So, intentional or otherwise, I think the first step is to admit that we've all probably been the preachy one. I know I have, and I've probably turned off my fair share of people from veganism accidentally just by being too overzealous and too eager to share my opinions of what they should do. And it makes me feel ashamed that I probably made them feel ashamed in that process. So much like in part 1, this is all about boundaries. Now that I think about it, everything was about boundaries. Pretty much just everything. But while part 1 was about other people respecting your boundaries, this is about having to respect other people's boundaries too. And it can be so difficult because we just want to be helpful, like those people who were giving us advice. They probably just want to be helpful. But we have to remember that help is subjective. What I think would be helpful in a moment is very likely not what someone else would actually find helpful. And because of my experiences with other people of giving unsolicited advice, my number one suggestion here is to just stop giving advice. I've actually made it a rule with myself that I no longer mention or talk to other people about my diet unless I am asked twice. If and when I am asked, which is very regularly, I give very short, concise answers. And then I wait and let them ask me more questions, or they don't. In the past, what would happen often is someone would ask me something about veganism or plant-based eating or a health concern, and I would give them a very long-winded answer, and I would suggest a bunch of books and documentaries that they watch, and I would just totally overload them, and then they would shut down and be uninterested. And in addition to it probably being a shame trigger for them, it turns into a huge waste of time for me. Because one of the most important lessons I've learned in my life is that people don't change unless they really want to change. I mean, they have to really want to change. Like, really want to change. That's why most people don't change. You can mention things, you can provide an example, but unless someone wants it in their guts, they're not going to be a different person. They're not going to go through the pain of change. And that's why I try to make it a habit of waiting for questions, of letting people ask me questions, and then I give them short, concise answers. Used to, if I thought someone had like a sliver of interest in veganism, I would recommend a book and a bunch of documentaries, and I'd be like, oh my god, you can borrow my copy of the book, like here, take it, read it, oh my gosh, or here's a copy of the documentary that I was talking about, and you can watch it, or you can have it. But I don't do that anymore. If someone is really interested, if someone really has what it takes to make a change, if I mention a book, they're gonna write it down and they're gonna seek it out themselves. If I mention a free documentary that they can watch on Netflix, they're going to seek that out themselves. And there's nothing that you can say or do to make a person more proactive about changing. And so you have to let go, and letting go is one of the hardest things you can ever do, especially if it's someone that you genuinely care about, like a friend or a family member who you just see, digging their own grave with food, or setting themselves up for more failure and pain and frustration. And it's so hard not to want to pull your hair out over that, or just shake them or yell at them. But there's literally nothing you can do. In yoga, this principle would be called detachment or dispassion, knowing that you can't make something change and it only turns your gears to try. Unfortunately, with the yogic or, Buddhist communities, I feel like often dispassion or detachment is interpreted and then acted out as callousness or frigidity. And that's certainly not what I'm talking about, nor am I talking about saying something like, you know what, it's your problem, you deal with it, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Which is also tempting, I'm not gonna lie. Another way that letting it go or detachment can go wrong in these types of situations is when someone tries to pretend that they don't care, but then they secretly try to manipulate and encourage the other person, and they get really emotionally invested in whether or not they fail or succeed or what they do. And trust me, that can turn into a lot of fights and disagreements too. And yet another way that letting it go or detachment can go wrong is if you turn into a doormat or an enabler and you end up just picking up the pieces for this person who refuses to change over and over again and constantly meeting them in their failure or their pain and getting dragged down along with them. And all of these pitfalls are why it's so difficult to find that balance between making sure that your own needs are met. That's valid, that's necessary, and leaving room for other people to grow when they're ready or not. And so if you're in a situation where you desperately want someone to change, be it a parent or a partner or a friend, what's very important is to address your own needs and figure out what those are. What do you need in order to be healthy and content, safe, taken care of, and, able to pursue happiness? Those are all valid. And how can you have those needs fulfilled while leaving room for them to be who they are? Since Nivea asked, I will happily discuss my own relationship. I've said in other videos that Levi, he has changed so much over the years. When I met him, he was a meat-eating alcoholic, and I want to be so clear that he didn't change for me. I didn't make him change. In fact, I had left to go fulfill a job contract, and when I left, I kind of did so saying, I can't be with this guy because he's slated himself for destruction from alcohol or heart disease or something, and that's just not something that I'm interested in, especially after my previous relationship of being with this guy for over 3 years and me going vegan and really wanting him to change, and that didn't work out. And so I do want to be so clear that Levi changed on his own. He went sober and vegetarian by himself. When I moved back and we ended up getting together, I was more than happy to support him in doing that while being really clear that I have no interest in being with someone who eats meat or abuses substances, be that alcohol or drugs. That's just not something that I'm interested in. And it would have been much harder for me to be clear about that had he tested my boundary. As a testament to the self-work that he has done, we haven't had to deal with that issue. But Levi does enjoy his vegan junk food from time to time, and while I would prefer that he didn't, just because it would be easier for me not to have to see and smell the stuff, and it would be easier for me to not have to see him eat that food and then feel all like gross and lethargic and full of regret. And while I do have some small concerns for his long-term health, oh, he's eating oil and processed foods, oh no. And while it would honestly look so much better on social media if we were both like super ripped people who work out together all the time and just like have perfect bodies, it would be so good. The reality is that those are not my priorities. I'm not saying it would be a terrible thing if they were, I'm just saying those are not my needs, and I'm clear about that. I don't need or want a super ripped partner that I do tandem workouts with all the time, or someone who never indulges in junk food. Like, I'm fine with that. What's more important to me is having someone who's healthy, someone who's not killing themselves with heart disease, and someone who's loving and present and supportive and everything that he is. And so with things like the vegan junk food or the peanut butter, sometimes he will ask me to help him stay off the peanut butter or stay off the fake meat. And we've gone back and forth a lot where he'll ask me to do that, and then he'll go to Target and he'll be buying it. And there have been many times where I'm like, you're an adult, you know, you make your choice, it's not on me. And then later that night he asks me, he's like, oh, I can't believe you let me do that, babe. And I'm like, no, that was you, okay? And I'll clarify something like, do you want me to rip it out of your hands and throw it? And he'll say, yeah, I want you to do that. So literally the next time we're at Target, I'll whack it out of his hands and be like, you told me to do that. You know, that was what you asked me to do. That's how you asked me to support you in your goal. There are times when he puts it back, and there are times when he picks it up and takes it home and eats it. And so I've had to be more detached about that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's not like I care, really. I just want him to be happy with himself, and I want him to feel good consistently. And him eating the junk food has not created those circumstances. And so in some ways it does negatively affect me, because if he doesn't feel well physically, if he's not energetic and up to snuff, then that affects how I can spend my time too, because I want to spend time with my partner and be energetic and feel good and all that jazz, right? And if he doesn't feel good about himself physically, then that also affects the dynamics of our relationship. So I've had to learn how to be detached about that, and not uncaring or callous, but just very clear that this is your thing, and I am ready and willing to support you in that whenever you decide that it's a priority for you, but I'm not going to make it a priority for you. While at the same time knowing that I have a certain standard for the human being that I want to share my life with, and I have certain expectations about that human, like they're just gonna baseline take care of themselves. And Levi is ready, willing, and able to meet that baseline. And he's ready, willing, and able to do that because our values align enough for that to happen. And with Levi, we've had a lot of playful conversations where I make fun of him for the peanut butter, for the fake meat, or whatever it is that he eats. There are times where I make fun of him or poke fun at him or call him the peanut butter monster, or like playfully hide the peanut butter and I won't let him have it, or I'll grab the Cliff Bar out of his hand and run away, and it's funny. There have also been times where we've had very serious conversations where I've said, like, I'm really sick of you asking me for help and then just wasting my time. You know, I give you a lot of time and energy and my effort of preparing you food, and then you don't eat it and you go and eat crap, and then you make yourself feel like crap, or you make yourself feel like crap and then we can't spend quality time together because you feel icky. It's mostly about communication. It's mostly about me being able to stand up for my needs and assert my boundaries with kindness and compassion for him without being super attached to the outcome. Now, I will say that while it is important to maintain my needs and my wants, it also pays for me to be aware of my propensity towards perfectionism and rigidity, which I definitely inflict upon myself and definitely try to inflict upon other people. I have found myself on many occasions trying to hold Levi to like an emotional standard that is unachievable by probably 99.9% of the people on the planet. And it's just unreasonable to him. It's unkind to us both. And I have to catch those feelings by picking up on the thing that's driving them, and that's always fear, that's always scarcity, that is always feeling unworthy. Always what drives my perfectionism and the rigidity that comes with it. So, like I said, it's a balancing act. Now, like I mentioned, I have been with a partner who didn't want to change, who wasn't interested, and I did try to encourage them to change. I nagged, I asked, I questioned, I tried to leave lots of vegan food around the house. I had him watch the documentaries And he didn't care. He was hell-bent on not changing. And there's not a damn thing I could have done about that. And while I would never give someone relationship advice that they should just flat out leave unless they're being abused, I definitely regret staying in that relationship as long as I did and waiting for someone to change who's not going to change, who doesn't want to change. It's a similar thing with friends, you know? I get that you love a person, but you know, especially if they're dragging you down and it's turning into a negative relationship for you, then you have to question why you're still there. With parents, it's a little different because, you know, you are made of them and you can't just go out and find new parents. I wish. What if there was a Match.com for parents? Yes. That was Mom's specific comment. Dad, I love you. But it's kind of a similar thing of just having to accept dispassionately, of being detached, of letting it go, that they're their own human being and they're going to make their own choices. And if they are going to make choices that are very likely harmful to themselves, and if they are aware of the likely consequences, then there's not a damn thing I can do about it. And I'm not going to shape my life to take care of those negative consequences for them. And I'm very clear about that. Like, Mom, if you stroke out, I'm not coming back for you. And then just living your own life and making the changes that you want to make inside yourself. All right, you guys, so that'll about do it. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this video. And as always, until next time, make better choices for yourself. No one's going to do it for you, and take really, really good care. I will see you all very soon. Bye.